I've made 2 previous videos on the question of why YouTube recommends videos, or might recommend videos the way it does, which you can check for some of the answers, but the questions seem to have changed in the meantime, as far as I can tell what the questions are. I often find when people are dealing with propaganda that they are so confused that they can't even phrase a question to come to terms with how they're being manipulated, because they don't know completely, and it's hard to discuss because they can't bring that up in enough detail to get other people starting to provide information. I can't know for sure if a video makes sense in terms of your past viewing history without knowing your past viewing history, but I have some possible reasons as to why, if you can't see the relationship between your past viewing history and the video of mine that's been recommended to you, that you can maybe have that become a little more apparent if you look at my previous videos on this subject. But it might also be that there could be reasons for recommending videos to people that don't have anything to do, apparently, with their past viewing history. This would be a sort of a Crazy Ivan strategy, and I wonder, in fact, if because of my name I might have actually mined as a possible source of Crazy Ivan videos in the recommendation system, because one of my car repair videos has even been recommended to somebody who hadn't watched a car repair video before, which wouldn't make any sense for that video in isolation. But if I'm being seen as this storehouse of possible Crazy Ivan videos, then maybe it might make a little more sense. The Crazy Ivan is a term from the movie Hunt for Red October, where a submarine can be deduced in terms of what its ultimate destination is. You can guess where it's going if it always travels in the shortest possible straight line toward that destination. But occasionally, the people in the submarine will assume that just in case they're being watched, they have to make a course change and appear to be heading somewhere else from where they're actually going. So they'll do this apparently random course correction, which is called a Crazy Ivan. Now, YouTube could be, or Google could be doing a similar thing, in that for one purpose or another, in order to get the recommendation system prevent it from becoming too stale, they'll throw in videos that seem to be different from the viewer's traditional viewing habits, so that the viewer doesn't get tunnel vision always viewing the same topic. Also, this could be a means of disguising the true workings of Google's algorithms from those trying to understand them. People will behave differently if they know they're being watched, just like the submariners in the Hunt for Red October. So, in order to counteract this, the Google will make some recommendations that don't appear to make sense, so that the overall pattern of Google's ultimate destination in mining and reallocating, collating, and reselling all this information might not be as discernible to those trying to figure out what's going on. There's a tendency for piracy to be very conservative. So if someone's just stealing material and taking it from the person who could make the original views, if that were the only source, and then reposting it to somewhere else to make a competing source of that viewership and not lose market share, then the person from whom it's being stolen is quite effectively censored in some ways. It's more effective, I would guess, to just copy someone's material and put it on your own platform, rather than banning the material on the competing platform altogether, because that just increases interest in it. If somebody says, you can't watch this, then they'll go and want to watch it. Whereas if it's stolen, put somewhere else, then that diverts the attention away in a different manner. It also can divert attention away from other things the original poster is trying to say. My note videos are by far the most popular and the most heavily pirated, but they don't reveal completely what my overall message is, that I'm trying to essentially put life into people and show means of combating propaganda that steals from people and undermines their will to live. Now, when you want to compete with the pirate platform, and let's say you're YouTube, I'm guessing that since I once had 2 highly pirated and highly popular videos that had almost exactly the same number of views and likes, and that has changed since the implementation of the recommendation system, that YouTube must have some sort of reason for preferring what is now called my third highest note video over what is now called my fourth highest note video. And that might be that the third highest note video was more heavily pirated, as far as I can infer, outside YouTube than the fourth highest note video was. So if you want to draw the people back from the other platforms where YouTube and my material has been pirated from, then you promote the video that's most heavily pirated outside YouTube rather than inside. Now, this is also a means of, in some ways, unintendedly or otherwise, promoting the very tunnel vision that Google could have been trying to combat, because people right now at least are watching only the recommended video rather than the virtually identical in terms of popularity video that it was once running head-to-head with the fourth highest note video. And it also has a way of drawing attention away from some of my videos that I think have important things to say that people should hear, and toward others that are more initially acceptable. It takes a long time to build up an audience for this sort of material, because in some ways it goes against singing convention. It's not what people are accustomed to seeing or hearing, which is the presentation of something which isn't well rehearsed and polished and learned. These are all first-time events, or almost first-time events. I'm essentially uploading these in changes in the highest or lowest note I can sing in various registers almost as soon as I make those changes. So they are records of how I changed at a certain point in time. And this can be the most intriguing thing about other art forms, particularly fiction, is watching the character as the character changes. An extreme example of this is soap operas, where the character just out of the blue does something totally different from what the past development of the character was supposed to be. In this case, though, I am doing this for a reason, doing it consistently. I'm trying to get my voice back. And there are a lot of health benefits to having a good singing voice, and I think there are lots of ways that people are psychologically controlled and beaten down by having the ability to speak and sing taken away from them. So a lot of my other videos are about that. But in this case, I think that it also diverts attention away from other parts of my message when you focus the attention so much on a single video. And it's important to realize that I have lots of other ones to watch, and there are ways of getting more deeply into these topics that we're trying to address. One of them is that most videos that I have, particularly the ones with peculiar titles, no matter how few views they have, can be found in a YouTube search if you search for the actual title. Like all my No Sangreal videos, if you type No Sangreal in there, and one of the videos in that series, by its exact title, it'll come up. But my videos on how to learn how to do ASMR, for instance, which don't rely on the traditional approach to ASMR, on which other people's audiences are built, don't come up at the top of the box, at least, when you make a search. So if you search for how to develop ASMR, which is the exact title of one of my videos, usually it won't come up at the very top in a YouTube search. Now, outside YouTube, it will. In Google, it'll come up. So people outside the platform that Google wants to draw in and are searching will be drawn into the platform by that means. But people searching within the platform against competing ASMR videos that don't use this self-taught approach to ASMR won't so easily find what they're looking for. So I often see this difference between what's outside YouTube and what's inside it as to what's being promoted. When you get all this stuff put together, then you get some very strange results in some ways that are mimic censorship, because you focus so much attention on one video, even within one creator's specific channel, that the other ones can languish. And rather than where someone had pirated my video, put it on another platform, people say, I want to find this guy, and I'm curious about what his stuff is, they'll come in and search and gradually start widening their search a little more quickly than the ones who are directly recommended to come to YouTube. Another factor from the question that's been asked a couple of times as to why my top video at the moment took 6 years to get to that position. Could be that when YouTube is searching for new ways to recommend new videos to people, they might be working like weather forecasters, in that you get a bunch of data about a system whose workings you don't understand completely. But the more data you mine from the past, the better your predictions will be. So you have this certain set of behaviors of a relatively unpredictable system. But the more you record data on the workings of that system, in this case as a metaphor for an individual viewer, the better you profile what an individual viewer watches, and then the better you know what that viewer watched that was apparently out of that viewer's previous sphere of interest, and the better you can predict what someone who resembles that viewer will watch. So if somebody who's been watching a certain type of video and then gets recommended to my video, likes it, then they would compare, I presume, that person to other people who have not yet watched my videos, compile data on both of them, and then feed my video to the people who haven't watched it yet and get a better result than they did before. And that seems to be happening over time, because the proportion of likes and also the proportion of questions that I get saying, how did this end up in my recommended, seems to be increasing as time goes on with this, what I call now my third highest note video. So the system's getting more efficient at finding the people who haven't watched my video yet and recommending it to them. But it's also generating a bias, because it could have done exactly the same thing with my fourth highest note video, and perhaps with other videos of mine as well. The strangest result I've got is from somebody saying that my car repair video is getting recommended now, and I don't see quite how that would happen, except that it's in the same channel as some of my other videos that seem to be perhaps becoming useful to Google as Crazy Ivans, as recommendations that can be made to people that on the surface don't make sense, in order to confuse and retain the value of Google's data in its ability to predict what people will do next, because they don't know how it's doing the predictions.